Welcome back for a special surprise survival horror game review. As always, this is Goku-san DBZ, and today's special surprise horror review, which I've been working on, is for the all-time classic survival horror game of the classic franchise, Silent Hill 2. By many people's opinions, the greatest of the franchise, and considered by many to be the greatest survival horror game of all time. Silent Hill 2. And this review is both a combination. Been a long time since I played the PS2. For the first time, played the original Xbox version. So I thought I'd give my personal perspective on this classic, all-time great survival horror game. Hopefully, you will appreciate the music in the background. But yes, this is for Silent Hill slash, of course, Silent Hill Restless Dreams. But with that said, we won't talk about any of the additional DLC. But as a most best way to describe Silent Hill 2, and yes, there may be here and there some spoilers, so keep that in mind with this review. If you don't want spoiled, then turn off now. But if you've already played or you don't plan on playing, the best way to describe Silent Hill 2 is your own personal purgatory, is the best way I know how to describe this game. And also, the thing about this game is it's about overcoming, in some ways, putting yourself through personal hell or personal purgatory, because at the end of the day, you play with one specific individual, James. And also, you will have the on again, off again conflicts or coming face to face with, of course, the spokesman or figurehead of the franchise today, that being, of course, Pyramid Head. Though, in relation, Pyramid Head originally wasn't supposed to be technically the face of the franchise, nor was it planned by the original classic Team Silent, which would, of course, do Silent Hill 1 through Silent Hill 4 The Room. But with that said, one thing I want to say about this game is how much superior this game is to many other greats. Even though Resident Evil, as I've said before, Resident Evil 2 is my personal favorite of all time, of just in general horror themes, if you want to go pure psychological, this is the perfect game to play. If you have the opportunity, honestly, to get this digitally, I don't really recommend the HD collection, but if you're at all curious about doing it, if you don't have a PC, I would recommend 360 version of the game. With that said, we have many conflicts and there's many reasons for the inner turmoil and emotions and the gravity of the depression and things. At first, throughout most of the game, James does not realize what Silent Hill really is, or specifically in Silent Hill 2 game, because in different Silent Hills, it takes up a different theme or aspect. Silent Hill 1 and 3 continue the same, more overarching, like it's a basically a hell on earth, if you will, with of course the cult and everything else. However, with Silent Hill 2, there is really no cult, and Pyramid Head is not just some random creature, he is a manifestation of the main character's personal inner demons and memories that he is somewhat, for the most of the game, has lost and forgotten, but he finds himself journeying through the game, meeting a few other individuals who are also going through their own personal purgatories as well. Specifically, we have characters such as Mary. Now, this is a key character for the throughout the game, and there are reasons why Mary reminds our main protagonist as his passed away wife. I won't get into the specifics of the end of the game, but I will say it will hammer you big time in the definitely emotion department. Just know one thing I'll quickly say before going on is if you have some serious depression issues or other types of psychological things, I probably would not recommend playing Silent Hill 2 in all honesty because of how hard this game will hit you in the emotion department. Definitely with sadness and depression, but in some ways, I think it's kind of good in some of those aspects just because it helps maybe try to help you subvertly actually try to work out maybe some of your own inner issues you have working on in your subconscious. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Silent Hill 2 is it's showing like outward manifestations of the issues that James has throughout the game with many different things of his past that at the time he does not really remember, but towards the end of the game, we have a few specific locations. And much of it is in the dark, so just know there's a good chunk of the game that will be in almost pitch black dark. Make sure you have the lighting up decent on the screen for the game. Just a heads up. Also, if you are all serious about want to play this and want to play it on a console, like I said, you can get the HD cheap, but otherwise, if you have the ability to get a digital copy of this game, I recommend probably going that route or get the original Xbox version of Silent Hill 2 because it's much more affordable than the PlayStation 2 version. But with that said, also, if you're wondering about this special case, of course, of Silent Hill 2 PS2, this custom case showing two pyramid heads, there's a reason. If you have played Silent Hill 2, then you probably know what this is referred to in the game and many other issues that you will come face to face with in the game. One thing I will say I like about Silent Hill 2 is the puzzles. Puzzles, for the most part, I think are very solid, and they're way better than puzzles in some other survival horror games I've played throughout the years. Like, it's better than definitely quite a few of the more modern Resident Evil puzzles. I will say I still love classic RE puzzles, but Silent Hill 2 has some of my personal favorite puzzles in survival horror games. And also, I like the creature designs are very imaginative, but I'm not surprised given this was at the time of Team Silent making the classics, at least through Silent Hill for the Room, which sometime in the future I might do a review on that game. But for now, with Silent Hill 2, it is quite a fascinating game, has a lot of fun. I will say the first part of the game will be very slow and sluggish. Just be warned, you must have good patience when it comes to playing Silent Hill 2. The first maybe first act of the game or first like quarter to third of the game is going to be very slow and somewhat repetitive, but trust me when I say once you get to closer towards the half mark of the game, it will really start speeding up, and boy, it will just hit you time after time. The story, I personally really enjoy the story of Silent Hill 2. That's one of the biggest things for me personally with this game is the top-notch storytelling. Definitely in many departments, and I like also the fact the game makes you actually have to use your brain and think about things from the story aspects as well as many other things. Now, one thing I will say is, depending how you handle issues involving characters like Mary and others throughout the game, other individuals you will come across or decisions you make, including like the last, of course, the big final boss battle. I will say at the end, there are, of course, many different possible endings and outcomes. Now, there are two kind of funny endings to the game, which kind of goes away from the more traditional. because you do have some endings that are, boy, oh boy, very dark, to say the least. Some very depressing endings. Then if you can look at and get one of the two kind of nutty endings, like one involving aliens and the other one involving a dog, which is my personal favorite weird twist ending, is the dog one. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up here on YouTube. Footage from those endings. But with that said, for the most part, yes. The best way I do describe is to describe the game as basically your main character is basically just going through his own inner purgatory, dealing with his own inner demons. And I like it for that because of the psychological aspects of the horror, the storytelling, and the fact that it's willing to not shy away from dealing with deep psychological issues, as well as many other things about dealing with issues of like you're trying to keep dormant, but what can happen if you let your inner demons or your inner negative influences take or manifest into physical form. And that's basically one of the big keys to Silent Hill, is bringing and punishing you if you feel punished, which we find out James does agree with his own inner demons and does believe he deserves to be punished for everything. And there's many reasons for that. But I won't go into any major specifics just because I don't want to spoil the game. If you're at all curious, you can find endings here on YouTube. Heck, you can even check out a full playthrough that Maximilian Dude did of the game. But for me, I think this is a superb horror game overall. I think in every aspect of the psychological, of the storytelling, of actually how deep and depressing and dark things can get, but that is exactly what, in my opinion, makes games like Silent Hill 2 stand out among the pack when it comes down to it, as a solid gameplay experience. If you're wanting more action and stuff with your horror, just play Resident Evil or something else, or The Evil Within. But if you want something that's a little bit more than your traditional horror game of nowadays, this is the route to go. But like I said, you can get it on PC, or you can play the Xbox or PS2 versions, which I recommend console, because the PC version has a lot more bug issues with freezing up a lot more often than the console versions. Though I recommend Xbox being cheaper and the fact it has extra content included. But with that said, on a scale of my grading system, I give Silent Hill 2 an A+, because it is a game that deserves it, and deserves all the praise it gets. Some people may consider it overrated, and at times I can see, but when you look at actually how much time and effort and care went into this game, from a perspective of storytelling, as well as a gameplay experience that you will never forget, this game fires on all cylinders, and I cannot recommend highly enough playing really any of the classic Silent Hill games. Heck, I do also highly recommend playing Silent Hill Origins as well as if you get a chance. But with that said, I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, and hopefully enjoyed this like surprise little horror review in early November, even though October's over and done with. But I wanted to just give a special review that I was working on in the side, doing a full replay through of, and for the first time on Xbox. And I enjoyed my experience on it. I still prefer playing on PS2, but the Xbox honestly was just as solid overall, and I like the extra goodies you get with the extra content. But with that said, stay safe, everyone, and have a good upcoming holiday season. And I'll see you soon enough. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.